The following podcast is brought to you by Valent U.S.A.
Welcome to Growing Forward, where we explore the variety, the impact, and the opportunities that agriculture has to offer. Today, we're joined by Megan Nemec from Valent U.S.A. Megan grew up on a row crop farm in Iowa, showed animals in 4-H, and now works as a digital strategist in the corporate communications department. Her journey shows how experiences in agriculture can open doors you might not expect, from science and technology to communications and beyond. Hello, Megan. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for joining us today for the Growing Forward podcast. We're happy to have you. Megan, why don't we start off just by telling our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. So I was born and raised in Fairfax, Iowa, so kind of the eastern side of the state, on a row crop farm. And I also grew up with sheep, and we raised sheep, and so did both my parents when they grew up. So that was a big part of things. From there, I went to Iowa State University, and I graduated with a double major in agronomy and ag communications, and then worked for Valent U.S.A. as a digital communications strategist. So I kind of get to combine both my interests of agronomy and communications, which is awesome. And then my personal life, I'm engaged currently to a farmer, and we live on a farm, and I get to help him farm. So everything kind of has come full circle, and it's awesome. So I'm really passionate about ag and excited for the future.
That's wonderful, Megan. And so, some of our listeners, such as myself or, other people who may be listening to this, maybe they didn't grow up on a farm, or maybe agriculture is new to them. Tell us a little bit about what that was like growing up.
I was never bored. I think a lot of kids, growing up, sometimes that's like, oh, Mom, Dad, I'm bored. I was never bored. There's always something to do. I was always outside. I was an only child, but I had cousins that my dad now farms with, and their dad, he farms with them, and they were always just down the road. So we were always driving four-wheelers. We're out in the fields. We were always out helping our dads. We were working with animals. There was always something to do, and we always just, made something to do. Kind of learning as we go, and playing outside was really to use our imagination.
Yeah, and I think, one of the things about growers and just really the agriculture industry is just the work ethic. Would you say that that was something that was taught to you when you were young, just the amount of work that goes into really making sure that you have a successful crop every year?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think it was something that was ever kind of intently forced on me to learn. It was just something that came along with it. I grew up, both my parents have really strong work ethics in their own ways, and their families do as well. So just kind of witnessing that. My dad, he had a full-time job on top of farming, so he was always busy. We rarely, I would say, sat down and had supper as a family, but we always spent time where we could. And between that, then I was helping out with trying to take care of things at home with the livestock and sheep, because that was a big part of what I was interested in. And then, my mom was always trying to take care of the house and the farm and everything in between. So I would say it's something that I kind of just witnessed and have kind of instilled in me today.
And what was your favorite part of it?
I would just say, as I grew up, I think now big picture, it was just the passion behind everything. And I think now me kind of seeing everything holistically, that it's such a bigger thing. There's so many generations behind myself and my parents, and just continuing that tradition, I think, is really something, and that's in my heart to continue to do for my kids in the future.
And at what point would you say you really started to understand the impact that you were making by feeding and fueling the world through the work you were doing on the farm?
Yeah, I feel like I realized early on that agriculture wasn't just about equipment or kind of crops or face value stuff. I mean, it's about people, passion, and purpose. And from an early age, I watched my family, especially my dad, pour their hearts, into the farm and what they do, and showed me that agriculture is truly a way of life. And it's a culture in itself. It teaches responsibility and resilience and the value of hard work. And I come from generations of farmers on both sides of my family, so I think just seeing that firsthand, that agriculture touches every part of life, and it really does connect us to something much bigger than ourselves. My dad farmed row crops, so he did corn and soybeans, and we also did some alfalfa. And then I've also had sheep throughout my whole life, which my parents both were in 4-H, and they both showed sheep. So I kind of just, the torch was basically passed down to me. So yeah, seeing those things from an early age was never something that was really forced onto me, or they didn't really push me to do. It was just something that I was always passionate about.
And would you say you had a big hand on the farm helping out your family with different tasks and things like that? And when did that start for you?
Yeah, definitely. It didn't start super early on because my parents, their main focus for me always was school. My schoolwork came first. But they also never really had me have a job off of the farm because I did a lot with 4-H and helping out around the farm with tasks, such as like making hay and doing all the sheep chores, both in the morning and night, before and after school. And there's a lot that goes into that. So that's kind of the things that I was responsible for, primarily with the livestock. And then anytime I could get in the tractor with my dad or help him out, I always did that, and I still do to this day.
That's awesome, Megan. And so you mentioned 4-H. So you worked with animals and projects and even it sounds like had some other opportunities through 4-H. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, 4-H really gave me the foundation that kind of I have today. I have started that, I think I was probably in like 4th or 5th grade, so super young. And a program that, like I said, both my parents were in, so they kind of just wanted me to have that basis and kind of see where it would take me. And from that, I really learned a lot. It helps you set goals and kind of have to work towards them. And then it also helped, I think, a lot with my speaking and kind of having confidence in that. And then also, above all, I feel like handling both success and setbacks. There was a lot of years I showed sheep. Sheep was like probably my favorite project area, and I'd showed them probably, I think, for almost 8 or 9 years without ever winning a trophy or anything. And all of my friends and cousins had all these trophies, so you can imagine, like, as a kid, that was kind of disappointing, but I stuck with it and eventually kind of met the right people and did the right work, and I was able to succeed in that. So that kind of carries on today, I think. Just there might be setbacks, but learning to be persistent and adapt and also be determined are all skills that I use to this day.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we hear there's all kinds of different agriculture organizations from 4-H, FFA, AFA, Manners, etc. And what would you, for any young member out there who may be listening to this podcast, or really anyone in general, what would you say to them about those organizations, about how they could possibly benefit them?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I just would say take every opportunity, and like even the ones that scare you. I know so many schools now have FFA. I unfortunately didn't have that as an opportunity when I was growing up, but now it's an option, which is awesome. And also 4-H, those are organizations that, even if you don't come from a farm, there's so many different project areas and so many people that want to help you grow. And there's so many different things that's not just you have to go out to a field and go do something, or even have an animal. So I think really just taking opportunities that are available if it's something that you're interested in. And there's so many relationships you can build through those. I've still see people to this day that I was on either state council with or, in the county, and even people kind of across the country that I've either met through my job at different places or just kind of out and about, and kind of had those different interactions, which is cool because you just have such a wide variety of people that you can kind of lean on if needed.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that the organizations do as well is they really open people's eyes to the fact that agriculture truly touches everything, from the food we eat, the clothes we wear, even the fuel that powers our cars. I mean, it's everywhere around us. And so what would you say, that might surprise young people about agriculture? What's one thing that you would tell them or maybe want to make them aware of about agriculture that they may not know?
Yeah, I think the main thing is people, I think downplay or kind of play down farming in general. Like, they don't realize how much science and strategy and care goes into producing the food that goes on their table. And, like you said, agriculture isn't just farming. There's a lot of soil science behind it. There's genetics, there's technology, there's sustainability, economics, so many things that all work together as one. And I really think if more people understood that and just a little bit of the background, I think there'd be a greater appreciation for farmers and even possibly less problems and less waste in our food system. And it's one thing that I kind of hope to see is that as we grow as, a population, that agriculture education can be more present in the classroom and something that's taught, because I think every classroom should have it as it connects, every student to something that they rely on every day.
Absolutely. And I think there's also a real misperception about what agriculture is. I mean, for those who didn't have the opportunity to grow up on a farm or maybe haven't been around agriculture, there can be some true misperceptions. And so for someone who's grown up on a farm, been around the ag industry really your whole life and now work in the ag industry, what would you say to those folks who may have misperceptions about maybe some of the tools or the technologies that growers are using today?
Yeah, I would just say that, technology is transforming ag definitely into one of the most innovative industries in the world. I mean, we have a significant growing number of our population, but also at the same time, our farmer population is decreasing as kind of the generations go on. So really using technology and being innovative to do more with less, I think is such a big thing now. There's drones now, precision data, like there's all these things that are coming out. I don't even know about half of them. There's crazy things that are happening to better the industry. Even social media and digital storytelling that we kind of touch into with our jobs, and especially platforms like TikTok. I think they're kind of giving people a window into how modern farms are operating and all those cool things that are going on. So I think it's kind of gaining, I want to say, popularity or understanding with younger generations, and it's kind of hoping it's helping to shift perceptions, just showing that agriculture is progressive and it's tech driven and it's essential really in our world.
Yeah, and I think, obviously the world is becoming more technology driven. And as you just said, farming is also becoming more innovational day by day, whether it's the science behind the solutions that growers are using or the tools and the data behind the tools that growers are using, and just, those different technologies to help them do more with less. There truly is a big opportunity for folks who may want to go into a science or technology or innovational driven area in their career. There's an opportunity in agriculture. Would you say that's true?
Yes, definitely. I think agriculture is it's one of the most diverse and rewarding and impactful industries out there, I think. And, you have all those different sectors like you just mentioned. And no matter, I feel like, your background or your interest, there's definitely a place for you in ag. I feel like it's such an open industry. People are so kind of just warm and they really want the best for everyone. And we're doing, something that's directly impacting people in the population for the world. And I think there's, few careers that can let you say that. And that's, one main thing I think that people could probably take away, and it's something that anyone that works in ag or touches it, I think, can feel.
Right. And so you're pretty unique because you studied both communications and agronomy in college. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what would you say that combination, would you recommend that combination for maybe our younger folks who may be listening and trying to decide what to study? Would you recommend that? Or what is some advice you'd give some future college students who may want to pursue the agriculture industry?
Yeah, so I started out with my major as solely agronomy, and that was kind of based off of a little internship that I had done in high school that I had the opportunity to do, which really made me learn what agronomy was, which is kind of the science, but plant science of crops and seed science and all those things. And I had no idea, honestly, even growing up on a farm, really what agronomy was. So I started with that, so I had an interest in it, and that kind of gave me the technical understanding of crops. But throughout school, high school, I always really enjoyed writing and reading and kind of all those things and communicating. And I felt like in my classes that I was missing that kind of side of my brain. I wasn't using that. I was being so science based. So I was like, you know what? I have extra time and extra credits I could be putting towards another major. So that's when I added ag communications, just because I feel like it kind of gave me more of those tools that I can use to translate kind of the technical side of science into meaningful and accessible stories. It's something that I think was a really good combination for myself, and I could see others working as well, especially people that have a wide variety of interests. If you can make that happen, I think that's great. I also went to Iowa State, and they have a major that's called Ag Studies, and I'm sure there's probably a lot of other colleges that have that or something similar as well, which I think is a really cool major, especially if you don't know exactly what you want to do with an ag. Last I knew, they covered ag business classes, they did animal science classes, and agronomy classes. So we kind of get to touch everything, and that's also a major then that you can go into the real world and you have a lot of experience. And I think a lot of jobs would see that and think highly of.
That's awesome. And when students go into college, it's such a big decision on what they should major in. And I know for myself, I had no idea. It's, you feel like you just hit with a ton of bricks at once, and you have to decide what you're going to do for the rest of your life at that very moment. And so I hope that some of our listeners are really getting some value out of that. And so for those folks who may be following along and maybe have some of the same interests or passions as you, such as both the science and the art side, how would you describe your day-to-day at Valent USA and your job, so that maybe some of our younger folks listening can get an understanding of what it is that you actually do?
Yeah, I think, as you know, it kind of sometimes can vary day to day, but I really do like my role because I feel like I bring a different perspective into making sure that we're correctly kind of having the right messaging and telling our story and making sure that it resonates with the most important people, which are our growers and kind of other leaders in the ag industry. So I think, help work to tell Valent and agriculture's sustainability story, and kind of we try to hit on the innovative practices that farmers are adopting, but also the choices that they're already making, and kind of highlighting these efforts that they do, and then being able to connect with farmers where they're at to make the right choices and pick the right solutions. It's really nice. I kind of feel like we're building brand awareness and confidence both around sustainable practices, and also just helping protect resources for the future, beyond just Valent and what we do. It's kind of a larger impact.
Yeah, sustainability, it's such a buzzword right now, but it is truly so important because you're right. Growers are having to do more with less, right? And so we really need to make sure that they have the things and the tools and the education that they need to make sure those operations can last not just for today, but for tomorrow and for generations to come. That's so important. And so, can you share a project at Valent that maybe connects directly to sustainability, and maybe it shows how what farmers do impacts the food that ends up on our table?
Yeah, this was one that it's kind of a large thing to try to think of kind of what I do and where that goes. But I think overall, one of the main key points, I help to manage our social media platforms and posts. And in thinking of it, especially in this vein, the information that we're sharing about crop protection or sustainability, or even our rebate programs or different things on our website, that's directly impacting the decisions that farmers and growers are making in their fields. And those decisions are then, influencing crop quality, yield, and ultimately our overall food supply of our world. So I think, ensuring that we are translating the right message to them and that it's reaching the right audiences at even the right times and seasons, we're really helping growers overall grow healthier crops that are, ultimately ending up feeding families across the world.
Absolutely, and I think it goes back to those maybe misperceptions that people may have about growers and the ag industry. Digital communications is now really one of the main forms of the way that consumers get news, right? It's how we
Yeah.
educate and reach them, and that goes for the ag industry as well. So what you're doing makes complete sense, and I bet you are making a bigger difference than you even may know because of the way that people are consuming news today.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a large task, I feel like, and you do all these small things every single day, but it's kind of neat to look at the broader picture and see how that's hopefully hitting home and resonating and making an impact.
Right, making a positive difference. And so, that goes back to maybe our listeners who are starting to get a better understanding of the ag industry and kind of the different types of careers like yourself that the ag industry offers. What would you say for to some of those students thinking about their future and why they should consider a career in agriculture, especially if they want to make a difference in sustainability? What kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, I mean, I would say first of all, we've talked about it before, but there's so many exciting careers that are in ag technology, and I think even some too that probably don't even exist yet. There's drone pilots, there's data analysts, there's like precision ag specialists. There's so many different things, and there's also so many opportunities within sustainability, genetics, marketing, even the digital content side of things. And I've talked to even people kind of even here at Valent, I know that they just had gotten into ag because they were started being interested in maybe genetics or something smaller in science, and then they met a company and that was really pulling for them and really wanted to kind of help them along, and then that got their interest sparked in agriculture. So I think just the fact that ag is so welcome and opening and we're evolving so quickly that there's new career paths all the time. There's always, I think, availability, and we want the smartest and brightest people to be within our industry to kind of help us continue to grow and make our industry better. And there's so much possibility in your overall. I just really fully believe that you're surrounded by some of the best people within our industry.
Absolutely. And I think there's just a real opportunity for folks to make a difference. And for a lot of young folks, study shows that's really where they are most interested in terms of the career they choose. They really want to make a positive difference through their work more than any other generation before them. And so I think that's a true opportunity in agriculture to really give back and help the world grow in the positive direction. So absolutely, I agree with you. So, as we have listeners on here who may not have grown up on a farm like yourself, or maybe don't have a lot of experience with agriculture, what are some of the most exciting or even maybe unexpected careers in ag that you think young people might not know exist?
Yeah, I think, I mean, any like other business thing, any, if it's a hospital, if it's medical or anything, they have all these different like departments. So like we still have, HR in ag, we still have marketing in ag, we have communication. So you have all those things that you can even hone into if you're interested in that but want to be part of the ag industry. And then beyond that, there's so many different, I think like science opportunities that I don't even know all of them, but within like Valent, we have our really like state-of-the-art labs where we have really experienced scientists that are constantly working on new products and trying to create solutions for helping farmers in the future, which I think is so cool. And it's I'm sure there's a lot of opportunities there that I'm not even aware of, but there's also a lot going on now with drones, pilots kind of with those and the science behind those. I know there's so much to do with data and kind of gathering those things to make positive impacts in the future. And I think I mentioned it before, but precision ag I know is also something that's really taking flight, kind of in becoming more of a thing, just again doing more with less. It's really important that we're utilizing the land that we have to its full potential.
And as someone, as I said, who's grown up around agriculture really your whole life, what was something that surprised you about the ag industry?
I would just say like the variety of people I think was amazing, because there's so many people from so many different backgrounds, which was really interesting to me, just coming from kind of a small part in Iowa here. And then also just all of the, I had a train of thought and I just lost it.
Well, that's okay.
Let me try to think. I lost it. What was it?
Maybe the variety of crops. I mean, I know
Yes, no,
Iowa.
that was literally what it was. Thank you.
Yeah, no.
Yes, so then also the other thing was the variety of crops. So yeah, being in Iowa, I had only, been experienced with row crops, so corn, bean, maybe some wheat here and there, alfalfa, etc. But coming to Valent, we learned there is a whole different side of specialty crops. So There's strawberries, oranges, different nuts, lettuce, all these crazy things that are grown on large scales, which was so interesting and neat to me to get to experience firsthand. So that's really opened my eyes just to how wide everything is that, that we're doing and who that touches.
Absolutely. And I think, there's again, students out here listening, so I'm trying to think in their minds and kind of their perspective. Do you think there's an opportunity for young folks with maybe bright ideas, innovative ideas, fresh ideas, maybe who have interests ranging from science to technology, animals, or even social media or communications? Do you think there's an opportunity for them in the ag space to make a difference?
Definitely. There's, I think, more than enough opportunity for everyone, and I really recommend just start by exploring. I know at my college they had plenty of career fairs, and that's a really good opportunity to talk to kind of local businesses and different companies and see what they have to offer. I know they're always more than happy. They're taking their time to be there, and they're looking for students and young people just as much as those folks looking for a job. So that's a great opportunity. If you know some local ag businesses around you, or even people that might work for them, that's also a great place to start. They're always really welcoming, I feel like, and they might have just jobs here and there that might get your feet wet and kind of maybe help you out, figure out what you're interested in. Then also, if you have a local FFA or 4-H clubs and chapters, definitely connect with those if you can. Or if you're unsure of that, there's always extension offices, and they're kind of a lot of times in charge of like 4-H or those things. And I know at school they have FFA, so if you need someone to contact, I'd go through those. And overall, just everywhere I feel like you are at within the industry, there's definitely mentors who would want to help you discover your path. So you might start with one thing, but I feel like one thing will lead to another, and you kind of always find your path of what you're meant to be, and whether your passion's with animals even, or data or technology, or even storytelling. There's so many different careers in ag that will let you use your strength to make a difference.
And I know Valent USA, I mean, we are always giving back, whether it's to FFA, AFA, Manners, through volunteer work or whatever it is. We're always looking to support that next generation of ag. And do you think there's opportunity at Valent USA for maybe some of the folks listening to make a difference just within our company?
Definitely. I think we've had a lot of folks that have stayed with Valent for decades, which is amazing, and they brought so much knowledge. And some of them now have started to kind of retire, and their time's come to an end in the ag industry. So we need bright young minds to, I think, replace all of those people. And there's awesome people that work for our company now that would be more than happy to kind of take them under their wing and kind of lead them along the way to be the next great people within Valent. And we also have mentor-mentee programs that are amazing, and that's a great way to kind of make relationships, and those relationships also kind of help guide you, I feel like, within the company as well.
Absolutely. And I think, being a Valent USA colleague myself, we just really have a great culture. I mean, we're just really accepting, and I have just noticed that we really do care. We really do care about the future of our colleagues, and whether it's that mentee mentorship program, or we have employee resource groups, which are great, and we have a variety of them just to make sure everyone feels a part and plays a part in our culture and moving forward, and a variety of different things. But I do think that is, based on some of the studies I've seen, one of the things as well that the younger generations are looking for in a workplace is really a culture where they can fit in and grow with, and make a difference. And so I do think Valent USA has that. Is there anything that you would say that maybe something that young folks may not be aware of, or advice that you would give them about really entering the workplace? Maybe it's someone who's studied ag, or maybe they studied communications and they find themselves in a career, their first job. Is there any advice you'd give them maybe that you weren't prepared for to help them be successful?
Yeah, I would say just kind of just like kind of keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, digest everything that kind of comes your way. It sometimes can be a lot at one time, but you'll also kind of find your footing. I think also having at least like one or two really solid relationships, kind of work on building those and have a close friend or close person, or even if it's your boss, to kind of lean on to help you through things, because there might be times that things can be challenging as with any job, and having someone kind of step you through that and guide you through that and help you kind of know what's normal, what's not normal, and kind of work through things together and come out at the end is really, really key. And that, it's probably similar to kind of relationships you have and friendships you have in college, those people that support you through classes and different challenges. So I think it's really just good to have a good team and a good support system behind you.
That is such great advice. I second that. And the other thing I would just add to that is to just never quit learning. You're going to come in with fresh mind, fresh ideas to your workplace. You've just gone through your studies, and so you're going to be ready to go. And so speak up. Speak up and share those, because we need it. We need those fresh perspectives. But then also never quit learning, because I am still learning something every day, and I've been in the workplace for more years than I'd like to admit. But there's always something new to learn.
Definitely.
Especially in agriculture, right? I mean, like we said, there's so many
Yes.
different
Changes every day.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. So, as we look ahead, Megan, what excites you about the future of agriculture?
I think I'm most excited about the next generation of farmers and professionals that are stepping into, leadership roles, whether it's in companies or especially on the farm. They're bringing the fresh ideas and the new technologies and wanting to adapt and kind of wanting to bring those things on the farm. They might have been underneath a dad or a grandpa that maybe didn't want to try out new things, and now's their time kind of to try to be innovative and be able to be passionate about that. And as they're taking the reins, I feel like we're really just going to see agriculture continue to evolve in ways that'll make it, more efficient and more globally connected. So I think it'll be just really interesting to see kind of what this new generation does.
Yeah, oh my goodness, I could not agree anymore. I am so excited. We're already seeing changes being made from younger generations' perspectives and ideas, and like I said, their innovational mindset. And so I'm excited as well. And I do think still there's also, knowledge to learn from older generations that have learned through experience. And so starting to see is really the merge of those fresh perspectives along with that historical knowledge and expertise come together. And it's really exciting to see the benefits of that. So if you could go back, and I'm kind of asking you to be a little bit vulnerable here. So, feel free to pass on the question if you don't want to answer. But if you could go back and give advice to yourself as a high school student in 4-H, think back about Megan when she was in high school before she entered college, what advice would you give yourself?
I would really just tell myself to take each and every opportunity and kind of look at it from a bigger picture. I feel like when you're in the moment, caught up in it, it sometimes can be really overwhelming. I did a lot of projects in 4-H, and I had my parents that I remember I had so many late nights the week before fair trying to get all these write-ups done for different projects, whether it was baking or my tractor or all these crazy things, and you get kind of stuck in those moments, but it really goes so fast. So I just think taking those opportunities as what they are, but also kind of taking a step back and appreciating that time of your life is really important. And even if things scare you, do them. Also, just overall, the skills and the relationships that you'll build there will carry you, far beyond just the county fair or the show ring or wherever you're at. They're going to shape your career and continue to build connections with people that will definitely, be in your corner and support you for a lifetime. I've made some of my closest best friends were through State 4-H Council, which I would have never met them if I wouldn't have taken the opportunity to go on it. So I definitely think that's things are meant to be and they'll lead you to people that you're supposed to have in your life. And overall agriculture, there's just so much out there, so much opportunity. So being part of it really is one of the most rewarding choices that you can make.
And as we close up here, Megan, one last opportunity. Any other advice or a closing sentence you'd like to leave the audience with?
I just think really be kind of intentful with the choices you make and the people that you meet in every conversation you have, because I think those are people, especially the ag industry. I was always told this when we were preparing for the different career fairs and stuff. Agriculture, it's a really big industry, but it's also really small. So someone that you might have a quick conversation with, they might be the next one that you're working with at your job, or they might be interviewing you for a job. So just really treat everyone with respect, treat everyone kindly, and take kind of every situation as an opportunity.
Megan, thank you for sharing your journey here today. For all of you listening, this is exactly what Growing Forward by Valent U.S.A. is about. It's about seeing the variety of careers, the impact agriculture has on our world, and the opportunities waiting for you. Agriculture isn't just about farming, it's about creating solutions for sustainability, feeding the world, and protecting our planet. So whether you're passionate about science, technology, animals, storytelling, or communications like Megan, there's a place for you in agriculture. And the future of food, energy, and sustainability needs people like you to step in and grow it forward. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Megan, once again, and we'll see you next time.